Every morning at exactly 8:15, Corporal Rachel Morgan rolled herself through the glass doors of Benny's Diner, a modest cafe tucked between a laundromat and an old bookstore in downtown Phoenix. Her arrival was routine, just like the familiar creak of her wheelchair as she crossed the tiled floor, the friendly wave from Benny behind the counter, and the way she always ordered black coffee and a turkey burger with extra napkins. Rachel, 38, was a quiet figure with powerful shoulders and calloused hands, remnants of the soldier she once was, and the survivor she still was. For the past 7 years, she'd navigated life without the use of her legs, ever since a mission in Helmand Province went sideways. She had spotted a buried IED seconds before her convoy passed over it. That warning saved lives. It also cost her everything below the waist. She never wore medals, but on her wrist was a red, white, and blue paracord bracelet. And in the inner pocket of her worn denim jacket, folded with reverence, was a letter from the President of the United States, thanking her for heroism that most would never hear about. That morning felt like any other. Rachel wheeled herself toward her usual corner table, nodding politely to the barista, a young woman named Lana. But as she passed a table of 3 young men, mid-20s, designer sneakers, obnoxiously loud laughter, she felt something shift. Her front wheel snagged on a loose tile. The tray on her lap tilted. Her burger slid, landed face down on the floor. "Nice one of them snorted. She was in the army? America must be real desperate these days." Rachel froze. Not because of the mess on the floor, but because she had heard that tone before. Back in places where danger was obvious, not dressed up in trendy jackets and mocking grins. "Hey, did they really give you a gun?" the tallest guy said, leaning back in his chair. "You look like you can't even hold a fork." Laughter exploded around her. Cold, mean, and loud enough that other customers started turning their heads, then quickly looking away. Rachel leaned down to retrieve the burger, her fingers trembling slightly. Her hand slipped. The food hit the floor again, and the laughter grew louder. She stayed quiet, because sometimes silence was the only shield she had. The burger lay untouched on the floor, lettuce and sauce smeared across the freshly mopped tile. Rachel sat up slowly, jaw clenched, her hands resting stiffly on her lap as the laughter echoed around her. The 3 young men were enjoying the show, nudging each other like schoolboys in the back of a classroom. But it wasn't a classroom. It was real life. And Rachel was tired of being the punchline. Across the diner, the reactions were quieter, but no less cruel. A man in a tailored suit adjusted his Bluetooth headset and turned his chair to face the window, as if the city skyline were suddenly more fascinating than a veteran being ridiculed. A middle-aged woman with 2 children scooped up her purse and left hastily, whispering something to her daughter without making eye contact with Rachel. Even Benny, the owner who had greeted her warmly every day for years, now pretended to be deeply focused on the coffee machine. No one said a word. No one stood up. No one told the boys to stop. It was the kind of silence Rachel had come to know too well, not the calm of peace, but the cowardice of complicity. She reached into her jacket pocket and felt the worn edge of the folded presidential letter. She didn't pull it out. She didn't need to. Just touching it reminded her who she was. One of the boys, Ryan, the loudest, stood up and swaggered toward her. So he smirked, arms crossed. "You're a real soldier, huh? What's that bracelet supposed to be?" "A souvenir." He reached toward her wrist as if to grab it. Rachel moved her arm away, slow but steady. Her voice came low, but firm. "It's not a souvenir. It's a promise. A promise." Ryan laughed. "What are you even talking about?" Before she could answer, a soft voice interrupted. "I'm sorry, ma'am," whispered Lana, the young barista, kneeling beside her with a clean tray and a fresh burger. "This one's on the house." Rachel looked at her, surprised. Lana's hands trembled as she set the tray down. She glanced nervously at the mocking boys before hurrying away. Rachel could see her ducking behind the counter, blinking back tears. But the moment of kindness only fueled Ryan more. "Oh, now we're giving free meals to the crippled army lady," he said loudly, gesturing for effect. "Special treatment for special cases." A few customers chuckled quietly. Most didn't laugh, but they didn't speak up either. They just stared into their phones, their coffee cups, their silence. Rachel looked down at the photo inside her wallet. Her unit in Afghanistan. 5 faces smiled back at her, 2 of them now gone. one missing both legs, like her. She whispered to the picture, "I hope you're not watching this." At the next table, a little boy in a Captain America t-shirt stared at her with wide, curious eyes. He leaned toward his mother and whispered, "Mommy, she has a soldier bracelet like Uncle Nate." His mother hushed him quickly, pulling him close. But Rachel caught his gaze and offered a faint smile. It was the only smile she could manage. She rolled backward from the table, the burger untouched again. She had never left this diner early before. Not in 7 years. She adjusted the wheels of her chair. She was ready to leave. Then her phone rang. Rachel reached for her phone, expecting a robocall or a reminder from the VA. But the screen lit up with a familiar name, Liam Blueheart, beneath a photo of a smiling young man in formal military dress. She hesitated, then answered. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, her voice a little steadier than it had been minutes ago. "Mom," came Liam's voice, clear and sharp. "I just saw a video. What's going on?" Rachel blinked. "What?" "Lana's brother sent it to me. It's going around in our group chat. Someone recorded those guys harassing you." Her heart sank. So even that wasn't private anymore. "It's nothing, Liam," she whispered, eyes scanning the diner. The three men were still laughing. "Just some kids being kids. I'm used to it." "Mom," he said again, firmer now. "They're not kids. They're grown men." Rachel said nothing. "Where are you sitting?" he asked. "My usual corner." "Stay there." "Liam, don't you dare." But the line had already gone dead. Rachel lowered the phone and placed it beside the untouched burger. The lead weight in her chest grew heavier. She looked up and saw Ryan watching her. He tilted his head mockingly. "Calling for backup?" he sneered. "Maybe someone who can actually walk this time?" The other two chuckled, but with less energy now. One of them, nervous now, fidgeted with his straw wrapper. The buzz of confrontation was giving way to a slow, creeping tension. Rachel ignored them. She unwrapped the fresh burger, her fingers still slightly shaky, and began to eat with calm precision. She refused to let them see her flinch. At the next table, the little boy in the Captain America shirt was still watching her. No judgment, just wide-eyed wonder. "Mommy," he said in a loud whisper. "She's brave, right? Like Uncle Nate?" His mother didn't answer. But she looked up this time, looked directly at Rachel, and nodded, ever so slightly. The minutes crawled by. Then, just as the wall clock ticked past 8:45, the air outside began to tremble. At first, it was subtle, a low vibration, like distant thunder. Then it grew. Engines. Powerful, synchronized, military-grade engines. The customers inside the diner turned toward the windows, confused. A businessman stood up to get a better view. A waitress dropped a tray. Outside, 2 Humvees and a light armored vehicle rolled into the parking lot, all painted desert tan, with unmistakable military markings. They didn't park, they positioned, blocking the entrance and creating a perimeter like a well-rehearsed maneuver. Car alarms in the distance chirped nervously. The ground itself seemed to hum. Inside the diner, silence fell like a curtain. Ryan stood up slowly. "What the hell?" The diner doors opened. One by one, 12 soldiers in full combat gear entered. Not running, not yelling, just moving in quiet, practiced unison, like a unit stepping into a mission zone. Then the 13th figure walked in. He wasn't the tallest, but the room shifted when he entered. He wore a captain's insignia on his chest, his posture proud, but his face deeply familiar. Rachel gasped. "Liam." Her son marched directly to her table. 2 feet away, he stopped and saluted. "Corporal Rachel Morgan," he said, voice loud, formal, and echoing across the stunned diner. "The men and women of Charlie Company, 4th Battalion, present and reporting." Every eye turned to Rachel. Her hands trembled. "Liam, you shouldn't have." But he turned toward the room. His gaze locked on the 3 men who had been laughing just minutes before. Now they were pale, shrinking back into their seats. "This establishment," Liam announced, "has someone who deserves your respect." He pointed to Rachel. "This is my mother. Combat medic. Honorable discharge. Lost her legs saving her team from an IED. The same team that includes soldiers standing here today." One of Ryan's friends stood up, clearly thinking about leaving. But another soldier, silent, imposing, stepped to the side and blocked his path. "Going somewhere?" the soldier asked. "Got anything to say first?" Ryan opened his mouth, then closed it. His arrogance had evaporated. Rachel remained seated, stunned, as her son knelt beside her wheelchair. He reached into his pocket and placed a unit insignia patch gently beside her plate. "The men who brought me home," he said softly, "asked me to give you this. And tell you, thank you. For everything." She didn't speak. She didn't need to. A single tear rolled down her cheek. Outside, the street was quiet. Inside, every soul stood in silence, not for fear, but for something far more powerful. Respect. The room stayed frozen long after Liam's words faded. The laughter was gone. So were the smirks. What replaced them was something heavier. A collective, aching silence. A silence that spoke of realization, of guilt, and shame, and something deeper. Reverence. The soldiers, still in formation, lined the diner's walls with perfect stillness. Some stood by the door. Others near the booths. They didn't say a word. They didn't need to. Because now, every eye was on Rachel Morgan, and for the first time that morning, not as a woman in a wheelchair, not as someone who dropped her burger, but as the warrior she was. Benny, the diner's owner, emerged from behind the counter. He walked slowly, hat in hand, his voice trembling. "Corporal Morgan," he said, clearing his throat. "Your money's no good here. Not today. Not ever again." He tried to smile, but his lips quivered. "I should have said something earlier. I'm sorry." Rachel gave him a small nod. She knew it wasn't perfect. But sometimes, acknowledgement comes late and still matters. Liam helped her turn her wheelchair toward the exit. She hadn't asked to be escorted out. But now, the path was lined with soldiers at attention, each one saluting as she passed. It was quiet. Until it wasn't. As Rachel moved through the aisle, an elderly man, the same one who had hidden behind his newspaper earlier, rose to his feet. Slowly, he removed his cap and placed it over his heart. Then a woman with a baby stood up. She whispered to her child, "Remember her face." That's what bravery looks like. One by one, every customer in the diner stood. The same people who had been silent were now lifting their heads, eyes following Rachel with a look that bordered on reverence. Not because someone had ordered them to, but because truth, when finally seen, demands respect. As they neared the door, the little boy in the Captain America shirt broke free from his mother. He ran up to Rachel, holding something small and colorful. "It's for you," he said, placing a crumpled drawing in her lap. Rachel looked down. It was a picture, drawn in messy crayon, of a woman in a wheelchair wearing a red cape and saluting. There was a big sun in the corner and a speech bubble that said, "You're my hero." Her fingers shook slightly as she folded the drawing and tucked it into the same pocket that held the president's letter. She looked at the boy, smiled, and whispered, "Thank you, soldier." He grinned and ran back to his mom. Ryan and his two friends remained seated, heads bowed, unable to meet anyone's gaze. No one touched them. No one needed to. The moment itself was punishment enough. Because in that cafe, under the weight of truth, bravado had no room to breathe. Liam opened the door for his mother. The sunlight streamed in, golden and warm. Before stepping out, Rachel paused. She turned her head slightly and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not all warriors stand tall. Some of us roll quietly, but we still move forward." Then she crossed the threshold, surrounded by her son and the men and women who had come to honor her. And the door shut behind her, leaving behind not just a diner, but a room forever changed.